Feast your eyes, glut your soul on my accursed ugliness.
I remember that one.
Legendary line.
Yeah.
Just so imaginative.
I can't remember if it's like an intertitle or a note that he gives, but the Phantom says, "No longer like a toad in these foul cellars will I secrete the venom of hatred, for you shall bring me love."
Oh my God.
Love that line.
Hello and welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Podcast. We're your hosts, Vincent Hannum.
And Matt Levine.
And we're talking about all our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time.
Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts welcome here.
Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty, your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services, follow the Zach Pack on social media, and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Link in those show notes.
Behind the cavernous walls of this great opera house, behind the gaiety and make-believe, lies terror, unspeakable terror. Who was this phantom plotting and scheming behind so grotesque a mask? The thundering organ, his throne of doom. The empty theater, his altar of death. Christine! Why did he torment and torture the opera's brightest stars? What evil fascination did beauty hold for this beast?
And Matt, we have a very special third guest with us tonight.
We do. Welcome, Paul McGuire Grimes. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me for the Phantom of the Opera. Should I have revealed the title this early?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great.
Maybe we'll put like an orchestral sting behind that maybe
Yeah,
in the
please
actual
do.
episode.
Organ only. Let's find some good organ music and pump that in there.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the 100-year anniversary of the Phantom of the Opera.
It is, and I just saw on Instagram that I sent this to Vincent that it's gonna be back up on the big screen in a ton of cities. So people have like, I've never seen that. I don't have access to it. Go see it on the big screen.
Yeah, with a live accompaniment too.
Yeah,
The best way to see a silent movie.
absolutely. If anyone's in Minnesota, like go to I don't know if it's playing at the Heights, but like the Heights Theater is like the best in town for that kind of old standard feel. They have a full organ on display that they play before their movies, and it's such a treat.
Paul, why have we summoned you? Yeah, tell us about yourself.
So I'm a Minneapolis-based film critic and entertainment reporter. I'm a member of the Critics' Choice Association. I'm a part of the Minneapolis Film Critics Alliance. You can find me on Rotten Tomatoes. I do media appearances on KSTP, on Twin Cities Live. I'm also on Fox 9 Good Day, also on My Talk 1071. And I'm also I'm an ambassador for Imagine Theaters, and I'm in their like pre-movie Welcome to Imagine video and do a lot of social media for them. And some of my interviews get shared on their social media sites. And yeah, I'm all around town.
And now on the airwaves for
Yes.
Camp Kaiju. But thank you for
Absolutely.
being here. We'll put
Thank you
all
for
the
having me.
Yeah, we'll have all the links to your goings-ons in the show notes for listeners to check you out.
Thank you.
Everyone follow Paul on Instagram, on other socials. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is gonna be a good evening.
Okay, great.
Sometimes we start an episode and we're like, yeah, I don't know how well this episode's gonna go, but tonight we're like, this is gonna be great. We can feel it, you
God,
know?
pressure's on, pressure's on. Here we
Yeah.
go. Yeah, we can play some Angela Lloyd Webber behind it. Just really get in the spirit.
Yeah.
Just watch out for any chandeliers. Don't walk under one.
Absolutely. Be careful.
Well, let's get into some quick nuts and bolts. Thank you for hanging out, all our listeners out there. Rate and review wherever you listen. You can also send us listener comments at campkaiju@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and also leave us some comments there at camp_kaiju_podcast. If you'd even like to be a featured voice on the show, you can do that by leaving a voicemail at 612-470-2612. Just tell us about your favorite monster movies, your fear of chandeliers, and all your other monster movie memories. Check out our website, campkaijupodcast.com, for more reviews and content. And if you really want some inside backstage passes to the opera house, so to speak, become a patron member at patreon.com/campkaiju. You can get discounts on our Threadless store, priority comments, any live events we got going on, and just generally more communication from me and Matt, because we love our patrons, and we're going to thank you all right now. Jason, Beast Drool, Chris B., Sean, our anonymous patron, and Peggy. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much.
And I would love it if those Patreon members came over to my Patreon and followed me over there as well. Paul's Trip to the Movies on Patreon. It's brand new, so starting the Patreon voyage.
Nice. Good luck.
Thank you. Teach me your ways.
Paul, we always like to feature like this month in monster movie history. So on the notes, there's a long list of some titles released in October. Each of us, we like to pick just one to geek out over and highlight for a little monster movie history. Any titles like screaming at you?
Wow. I mean, literally so many of them, from Night of the Living Dead, which is iconic, classic, groundbreaking. My little known fact, my husband directed a musical version of Night of the Living Dead that premiered here a couple years ago, and it was a lot of fun and it was great. But I love Night of the Living Dead. Nightmare Before Christmas, obviously a classic. That Danny Elfman score, I obsess over film scores, and that Danny Elfman one is, can we say, underrated? I mean, a lot of people know it, but I just see like in the pantheon of Danny Elfman is so good. That's great. Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, Angela Lansbury, give me Angela every day, all night long. So yeah, those are my picks.
You took Bed Knobs and Broomsticks from me. I grew up on that.
Well, now tell me why you love it. This isn't just, we all can pick Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
That is true. Surprise Bed Knobs and Broomsticks episode, everybody. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
No, I haven't seen it since I was a kid, which
Same.
I'm going to say that's probably more than 20 years now. But since I've started this podcast, I've thought about that movie in particular. Angela Lansbury, just the best witch you could enjoy as a child. And then the animation, I'm just curious, does that hold up, the blend of animation with live action? I remember it being kind of weird as a kid, like at the end, all the suits of armor come to life, and there's like a German World War I plot going on.
That's weird. In terms of animation, I would say that it probably does, because I've watched it's same as Mary Poppins. Like, it's that same type of style, and that still holds up in my opinion, and it's still magical and still takes you back to why you love that movie in the first place. I love Mary Poppins, and after my daughter was born, like, it's not like she can really watch it, but it was lovely to have on in the background and like sing those songs to her, and
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks will have to be next on our watch list.
Absolutely.
I'm going to share in the Bed Knobs and Broomsticks love as well. That played a huge role in my childhood. My parents would they had like crates and boxes of like old VHS, like blank VHS tapes, and they would just like record any movie that was playing on TV that was like appropriate for kids on there. And Bed Knobs and Broomsticks was the one that I would just watch on repeat. I'm sure that like VHS tape is just like mangled beyond repair by now, but I watched it all the time when I was a kid. And with the animation, like I miss movies that combine live action and animation, and Mary Poppins does that too. It's just a style you don't really see all that much anymore. And It's such a whimsical, like fantastic visual style. I wish, somebody should bring that back because it's just so magical,
They did a bit of that with Mary Poppins Returns, the Emily Blunt, Lin-Manuel Miranda, like new take on Mary Poppins. And I thought it worked well just to kind of honor the original. And yeah, I wish they would do it again.
Yeah.
I think Disney's Wish was in 2D, if I remember correctly. And then people like panned it because they were like, oh, it looks so dated. It doesn't look good. I'm like, well, that was the point. It's the 100th anniversary movie. Like, get over yourselves already and just be nostalgic. I don't know.
Yeah. Dated is kind of a good thing sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
What is coming up? New horror releases, monster movie releases. Paul, you're the guy to give us the inside scoop. What's on your radar?
What's on my radar? There's a few movies on my radar. Some are monster, some are not. But we'll start with the monstery one first. Is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I'm very excited about. Love a lot of his movies. This is right up his alley. It just looks tailor-made for him, and he will make it with his true vision, which I'm very much looking forward to. There's that. And then other just movies coming out that I'm excited for is Wicked for Good. I love Wicked, and I love Act 2 of Wicked, which is what this movie is. So I just cannot wait. Some of my favorite music from the musical is in Act 2, which is in For Good, and I'm just losing my mind over it. So that's exciting. Hamnet from Chloe Zhao. I love Shakespeare and Hamlet, and this is like going into what that story is a bit. And I just think that it's getting rave reviews from the people that have seen it. It's the opening night film at the Twin Cities Film Festival, so I'm looking forward to that. And then there's a movie coming out around Christmas called Is This Thing On? Written by Will Arnett and Bradley Cooper, directed by Bradley Cooper, about a guy going into stand-up comedy in the wake of his divorce. And I think it looks excellent and looks like, is this a great career move? Is he having this midlife crisis? Will Arnett is great. I love Bradley Cooper's movies as a writer and director, so I'm all in. Yeah.
Nice.
And Laura Dern. I mean, Queen Laura Dern is in it, so like, of course I'll be there.
Oh man. You don't have to answer, I guess, but like, are you going to interview any of these folks?
I don't think I'm getting Frankenstein because I already did interviews for that and I didn't get it. Crossing my fingers for Wicked for Good. I interviewed Michelle Yeoh for the first Wicked, so hopefully I'll get something for the new one. I would love to get Hamnet. Would love to get Is This Thing On? I do sometimes get Searchlight because I think they're doing Is This Thing On, so I would hope to get something for that. But I mean, we'll see. The industry is really changing right now with who gets interviews, who gets to do press junkets, who gets access to things, and we don't need to go into it. It's too long of a conversation for this, but the industry's really changing with that. So we'll see.
Yeah. If this was another podcast or just getting some coffee, I would love to learn about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days ago, I watched Matango, directed by Ishiro Honda, who we've talked about so much on the podcast. And Matango is amazing. I loved it. It's like so different from Godzilla and from many of his other kaiju movies. It is a monster movie. It's kind of about like a strain of mutated fungus. And it has like a lot of the same themes of like, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as just like class consciousness and things like that. But it's a little bit darker and more foreboding and surreal than a lot of the other Ishiro Honda movies that I've seen. So I wish I knew a little bit more about new stuff coming up, but like the older stuff I've seen recently has been fantastic.
You brought up Matango, Paul. This is a movie I recommend to anybody, and it's really trippy and really horrifying, actually.
This sounds like The Last of Us, but like on an island.
Yeah.
And starring a bunch of young, dumb people. So send it my way. I'll watch it.
Yeah. It's less zombie-ish than The Last of Us. But aside from that, it has a lot of parallels for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Its American release was called Attack of the Mushroom People.
Oh, wow.
So
there you go.
You'll find that around.
One newer movie that I'm curious about, and I don't know if it's totally a monster movie, but have either of you guys seen Him yet? Which is like the football horror movie?
No, I've been wanting to see it, have not had a chance to yet.
Same. Yeah, I just looks so interesting and compelling. I mean, there's a lot of criticism you could apply to football in the NFL, and I feel like that movie's obviously getting to that a little bit. And it seems kind of monsterish, kind of horrorish, so I'm excited to see it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, a good psychological thriller.
Yeah.
We're going into 2026 here, but I'm a big Scream fan. So like I'm looking forward to Scream 7, like with my whole heart. And I just finished reading a great book called Your Favorite Scary Movie by Ashley Collins. And it's a big deep dive into the Scream franchise. And she has like over 80 interviews with like everyone involved in that franchise. So it was a phenomenal read. Great read for any Scream fans out there. And I'm looking forward to the new one.
Cool. That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your history, Paul or Matt, with either the Phantom of the Opera, this specific Lon Chaney film, or I guess the property as a whole and all of its iterations?
My entry point is really just the musical. I've not read the book. I'd not seen the movie until I prepped for this. But my entry point into fandom is the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical that I've seen a bunch of times on tour, and that even a newer iteration that they did on tour. And then I've seen it a couple times on Broadway before it closed on Broadway. So I'm very familiar with the Andrew Lloyd Webber of it all and what that is like. So it was kind of interesting to see this movie with that in the back of my head and to see like where the musical kind of pays homage to the movie and does some different things. And yeah, it's not my favorite musical at all. I think there's a big inside joke in there's a big inside joke in my house because my husband really loves it. And he's got some like, just deep personal connections to it. So we try to see it when we can. And the last time we saw it on Broadway, there was a big stage mishap, but that's not even the story I'm going to tell you, is we get to the end of the first act and Raul and Christine are singing All I Ask of You. And this is like their second scene together. And now we're supposed to believe that they have this great love song to end all love songs. I'm like, did we earn it? Like, what is happening right now? And I've seen the show so many times, and yet, Weber, what are you doing here? Like, I don't know. Not a fan. Not my favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber musical by any means.
That's funny. I'm the opposite. I have never seen the stage musical. I've seen the movie version of that.
Trash.
Yeah, even then
Joel Schumacher, what were you doing?
Yeah.
Does not work.
I mean, everyone got paid and, kudos to them. I first watched in its entirety this Lon Chaney 1925 version just a few years ago, and I fell in love with it. And I've always been a fan of silent movies, though I haven't done like a big deep dive until recently. And now the musical is touring again, and I am definitely going to buy my ticket because now I want to see what the musical does now that I've seen the movie first. So I'm the opposite of you in that regard. So I'm excited. I can't wait. And
the longest running show on Broadway, it has toured 85,000 times, and I'm just surprised that you've never seen it.
I'm a theater guy.
I was going to say like, yeah.
And every time I go to Broadway, I try to see a musical, but maybe because it was always running, I just took it for granted.
See, now it's too late. You're 30 years too late. Well, actually, I take that back because there's a new like immersive production of Phantom that's off Broadway called Masquerade. And you like go throughout, it's like an immersive kind of site specific where you go throughout the space. There's like 5 different people playing the Phantom at different points of the show. Like it's the musical, but done differently. Like they did this with Cats or like last season called Cats the Jellicle Ball, which then featured cats, but told like a ball competition. And it worked really well. I didn't see it. I guess I shouldn't just have a definitive opinion, but people are kind of loving this take on Phantom called Masquerade. So I'm like, well, I would see that, and we'll see the tour. Like we've got our season tickets, so like we'll see it. But
nice,
yeah.
Maybe I'll see you there, Matt.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, I mostly come to this through like more on the film side. Like I remember seeing the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera, which we're talking about tonight, a long time ago, like in high school when I first like really got into movies and I was like renting every movie from the library I possibly could. I watched this and Hunchback with Lon Chaney right around that time, but I haven't seen it since then. And that's, dating myself a little bit, but that would be like more than 20 years ago now. But that's like my main entry point into Phantom of the Opera. I did see the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical when I was in middle school, I think, in Chicago with my family. And that's a sign of like how popular the musical is, because I'm not even really a big musical guy, and like this is one of the few that I've actually seen. So I remember liking it at the time, but I was like an undiscerning, 15-year-old. So what did I know at the time,
Hey, I mean, but at 15, your family took you to see it because it's accessible.
Mhm.
Like a lot of non-musical lovers go to it. It's like their kind of entry point into Broadway or music theater. It's different than a lot of musicals out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, you can make a point that that's a good or a bad thing, that it's sort of like the musical for people who don't like musicals, but
It's a whole other podcast.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I definitely came at it more from the film side. I do also want to mention that even though this was only the second time I've seen Phantom of the Opera, I've seen Phantom of the Paradise by Brian De Palma like 10 times, which is a great sort of like homage to / like subversion of Phantom of the Opera, and sort of like updates a lot of the themes for the 1970s when it was made. So weirdly enough, I feel like I know De Palma's like re-envisioning of it more than the actual original version of it. And I do want to shout out that movie because it's incredible. If you haven't seen Phantom of the Paradise, it's great.
I haven't, but I like De Palma's work. And
you'd like that
he's
movie.
he's a director that I really need to know more of. Like I've obviously seen like every Spielberg movie and most of Scorsese. So like that group of filmmakers that all came out together and came up together and were friends together. Yeah, he's like the one of those 5 that I'm like, I still need to see more of his work.
I love him. One of the most visually stylish directors of all time, for sure.
Wow. I mean, Carrie, that's a classic for a reason. And that's a lot of that's him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think Phantom of the Paradise he made either right before or right after Carrie. I can't quite remember, but it's around that same time and has a lot of the same just like visual energy as Carrie. So
yeah.
Won't spend too much time on that movie, but it's awesome.
Great.
Future episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you all are talking, and I'm thinking about like, why did I choose this movie? I mean, because it is the Phantom of the Opera. Through pop culture, we have we just know it, right? We all know if not the story, we know the mask, and there's a guy who stalks a woman under an opera house, and there's a lot of music. But going back to this, I would say original iteration, does it stand the test of time? Does a silent movie still carry weight with us? I mean, we're film lovers here, but maybe some listeners out there feel differently. Even us. I mean, we love film, we can appreciate film, but is it more of a historical artifact, if that makes sense, that we appreciate, or is it a film that still like truly captivates us in a way, in a storytelling element? Over this conversation, I'm excited to dive into all aspects, the history, the artistic merit.
I'm maybe getting the sense that I liked this or like this even more than you do or did or whatever, but I don't want to provide any spoilers, so we'll find out over the course of this episode.
Here is all you've ever wanted in entertainment in one superb show. Here is matchless story, suspenseful, terrifying, never so thrillingly presented. Here in breathtaking technicolor is superb spectacle and splendor and romance. Here is a chorus of 100 voices, a ballet of 100 dancers, a cast of 1,000. Starring Nelson Eddy in his most vigorous performance, lovely Susanna Foster, and Claude Rains in the most coveted role of the year as the Phantom of the Opera.
My music! You've stolen it! You've stolen my music!
Some stories have so great a power that with each new generation, they are reborn.
There's a feeling, a passion.
But it had to come from somewhere. This was no phantom. Ghosts do not skin their victims. This is the work of an artist. We will make music that the world will love forever. Take the last step to me. You are the angel. Rachel. You are my voice.
I feel him and I hear him. I don't want this feeling ever to go away.
The Phantom of the Opera. The all-time horror classic.
The Phantom is real. It has a name.
Is now a major motion picture.
You love the music. I am the music. A lot of people are dead, Mr. Dutton, and the murderer is in your house. Someone is doing murder in Christine Day's name. Our souls are one.
No!
Robert Englund is
You're him, aren't you?
the Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom of the Opera. Only love and music are forever.
So this movie was directed by Rupert Julian. He was one of Universal's top directors at the time. He had kind of taken over the production of Merry-Go-Round, which had been an Erich von Stroheim movie, I believe. I'm 98% sure about that. Sorry, I'm kind of going off the top of my head right here. But that kind of that put him in like the good graces of the Universal like head honchos. So yeah, Rupert Julian was kind of one of the top directors at the time. He took over for Phantom of the Opera. It's probably his best known surviving work. He did not get along very well with some of the cast and crew, but we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later. The supplemental director of Phantom of the Opera was Edward Sedgwick. He took over after Rupert Julian kind of left the project or was replaced towards the end of the shooting. Sedgwick directed The Final Chase Through Paris. Like I was kind of just alluding to, the relationship between Lon Chaney and Rupert Julian kind of soured during the making of the movie, so that's why Sedgwick took over at some point. He had a flair for comedy, having directed all but one of Buster Keaton's films at MGM, so Phantom of the Opera may be kind of a strange choice for Edward Sedgwick. The producer was Carl Laemmle, the famous Carl Laemmle. Carl Laemmle Jr., of course, was the main producer in a lot of the Universal horror movies that would be made over the next 15 to 20 years. So Carl Laemmle, German immigrant who co-founded Universal Pictures in 1912. The scenario of Phantom of the Opera was by Elliot Clausen, and it was from the novel, which I believe was published in 1910, written by Gaston Leroux.
I got nothing else. Oh, The Cameraman. Do you know that Buster Keaton film?
Yeah, yep, it's a good one. I feel like, as far as Keaton movies go, I feel like Sherlock Jr. does similar things in like a better, more interesting, funnier, more bizarre way, but The Cameraman is very cool. I like that movie a lot.
That was directed by Edward Sedgwick. My first experiences with silent film was in high school, and anytime TCM played a silent movie, I tried to be there to watch it. And I quickly kind of discerned that if it's a funny movie, silent movie, or a horror silent movie, my attention is just that much more focused. It was some of the dramas that I would get a little lost in, and it was kind of hard to watch sometimes. But Buster Keaton was my favorite in high school. Yeah, before I got into like Charlie Chaplin and stuff. I think I'm a Buster Keaton guy.
I feel like I'm at the point where I love them both equally, and I'm like, can we all just get along? Keaton and Chaplin are like equally great in different ways, in my opinion, but I feel like both of them together, and also Harold Lloyd, like for people that don't haven't seen a lot of silent movies, maybe aren't sure if they would like them, start with those three silent comedians. Those hold up extremely well.
Mm-hmm. Actually, just real quick, the first Lon Chaney movie I ever saw was called The Monster, and that was released in 1925, the same year as Phantom. And that one's readily available, just kind of in the public domain. And he plays a mad scientist in a house of horrors who like lures people to his home, and there's like monstrosities around. So if you haven't seen The Monster, I'd recommend that one too.
I hope you put all these titles in the notes so that people can go back to their bibliography and like write down all the things we're talking about. I don't know if you ever, do that, but God, I've got ideas now.
Yeah.
That is a good idea. We do that with like reviews and like books that we reference sometimes, but I don't know if we really do that for movies. Maybe we do. Sorry if I'm wrong about that, Vincent, but yeah, we should do that.
No, I've never considered our listeners in that way.
And we're not going to. Just
Hope you're all
All right,
taking
we'll do
notes.
it. We'll do it.
yeah.
All right. And I think just a pronunciation check. Lemley is how I've always heard Carl Lemley's name.
Well, good old Carl Lemley decided he would go and cast his niece in the piece as one of the prima ballerinas. She was 15 at the time, and she lived a long, good life. She lived until 2014 and died at 104. Like, my God, I don't want to live that long. So you will not hopefully see me that long. But yeah, that's really great. So a little family connection there to Carl, his niece, as the prima ballerina. You have Arthur Edmund Carew as the inspector. That character was called the Persian in the novel, and he was a very well-respected Armenian American actor at the time, which I think is really cool. He was thought to maybe be considered for Dracula, but then, of course, Bela Lugosi went on to play Dracula.
And I read, interestingly enough, in the musical, the Inspector Ledoux character is not in that musical. Am I right about that? Or
I don't think so. That doesn't ring a bell to me.
interesting.
I'm more familiar with like Madame Giry and Raoul and the Phantom and Christine and Carlotta and
Well, how
speaking
about
of Christine,
yeah, Mary Philbin.
yeah, she goes and plays Christine. If people don't know Christine Daae, she is the main like ingenue that the Phantom is entranced over, wants. And Mary Philbin began her acting career after she won a beauty pageant sponsored by Universal. Easy way in there. She only made a couple of films. I mean, this is 1925. She retired in 1930 after she dubbed her voice, which we'll talk about in a later iteration of Phantom. She redubbed her voice for it. And that was kind of the end of her career. She did pop out for the 1989 premiere of the musical, so kind of made a little appearance there, which I think is really cool. But yeah, and then Norman Carey played Raoul, and Raoul is the one that loves Christine and is kind of fighting over the Phantom over Christine, and this kind of love triangle that takes place in the show. You know, he's tall, dark, handsome, played by Patrick Wilson in the movie musical. From one of the few highlights of that movie was Patrick Wilson, and you know, we now know him in the Conjuring universe. He was in the Full Monty on Broadway. Gorgeous, gorgeous singing voice. But yeah, he would also star with Lon Chaney in Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Unknown. He also re-recorded his voice for The Phantom in 1929 as well.
But I guess they're all working for Universal, contract players.
Contract
right?
players.
Yeah.
'Tis the day, 'tis the time.
Yeah, studio era. I love classic Hollywood history personally. So Lon Chaney, I've always been aware of. He was born Leonidas Chaney, and he was one of the biggest stars of the day in a era where, you know, there were more stars in the MGM studio than in heaven. That was what MGM said. But he worked with MGM, he worked with Universal, he kind of did everything, worked with everybody from the very beginning. He moved to Hollywood in 1912 and started working in pictures then. Before then, he was in the vaudeville circuit, doing a lot of, you know, comedies, melodramas, burlesque even, all sorts of things. He was born in Colorado Springs, I think. And I just found this is like, I think, central to his persona. He is so connected to silent movies because he has such a strong physicality. And that was actually born out of necessity. His parents, both of whom were deaf. So from the very beginning, he was needing to pantomime just to communicate with his parents. And I think a really fun fact, but also just like an important fact, is his maternal grandparents founded the Colorado School for the Deaf in 1874, which is still in existence in Colorado. So I just think that's a legacy worth noting here. Yeah, Chaney knew ASL and brought all of these talents all these skills rather, to his talents then on the screen. He made his big break in a movie called The Miracle Man, which is now lost, but he played a con artist who fakes being a paraplegic And throughout the course of the movie, like he like fakes a miracle and then he can suddenly walk. And that movie was in 1919. Then in 1920, he played a gangster without legs in a movie called The Penalty, which I think it's partially lost or mostly lost, but there are still some snippets that exist. But this was like the first time Chaney, I would say, physically tortured himself, which sounds hyperbolic. And I think you can get into like maybe the more like the ethics of like torturing yourself for your craft. But he did in movies like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Phantom, and this movie, The Penalty. He to achieve the effect of being legless, he bound his legs behind him so tightly that he actually suffered nerve damage for the rest of his life. But the effect was monumental. Audiences lost their minds, and a star was born, to borrow a phrase. So his I was going to say his peak, his heyday was the 1920s, but that was really it. Because then he ended up dying in 1930 of lung cancer. He was 47 years old. He was survived by his son, who became Lon Chaney Jr., we all know and love from The Wolfman and other Universal horror classics. But Lon Chaney Jr.'s mother was an actress as well. And in the early days of her and Lon Sr.'s relationship, it was a very troubled marriage. And his first wife, Lon Chaney Jr.'s mother, attempted suicide on stage by drinking poison. She survived this, but it scarred her vocal cords beyond repair, so she can never sing again like she did before. Chaney won custody of their son, and it's just all, I think, relevant to the characters that Lon Chaney plays in his movies. He's very well known for playing these emotionally fraught but sincere characters. There's a lot of humanity in his performances. And when you know a little bit about his background, his parents, his marriage, his family life, it's just, as an actor, I could, he has a lot to pull from.
I mean, talk about like a rich and complicated life legacy that you can pull from at a very young age and tragic at the same time, and what he would do for his art. And, sometimes you hear of those types of, I don't think most actors these days would ever go to those lengths, nor should they by any means. Yeah. I mean, you hear about actors, immersing themselves in the roles, which is kind of crap, but not to this extent. I don't think it would be approved of by the studios, by the insurance companies to do that anymore. I think when we talk about the making of this film, you'll see, that would never happen anymore. And even the story is like a dated story. And some of the movies that you were describing, like, they would never make that movie anymore. That would not be a story anymore.
Mm-hmm. Or perhaps we cast actors who look like the characters they're playing.
Well, there's that concept, representation.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It kind of, like, the closest thing I can think of nowadays is like the weight fluctuations, for example, that like Christian Bale goes through or whatever. But I feel like it's a totally different thing. Like, it almost seems like a stunt, in my opinion, when Christian Bale does it. But like for Chaney, it's like fully becoming that character. Now, I mean, not to, hate on Christian Bale too much, but I feel like it's just like a different, like just reaffirming what both of you guys said. Like, Chaney pours himself into these characters and these roles to a greater extent, and probably a more dangerous extent than any actor would do nowadays.
Right. And if you are one of those types of actors, you're probably going to piss off your crew, your cast, because of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lon Chaney was, by some people's accounts, difficult to work with. He shunned the limelight, actually. He was one of those actors he rarely gave interviews. He rarely gave the paparazzi any time of day. However, there's plenty of stories to the opposite too, where he was very respectful of his co-stars. Joan Crawford, in one of her first movies, worked with him on The Unknown, and she's on the record stating that he took her under his wing and showed her the ropes and gave her a lot of acting lessons that she took with her. So people, we contain multitudes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, side tangent. Did you see The Life of Chuck?
No.
Oh,
Was
that's
it
like
good?
the main theme of The Life of Chuck is that we all contain multitudes.
Oh, really?
It's so good. It's based on a short story by Stephen King, written and directed by Mike Flanagan. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. And they talk about this idea that we're all multitudes, and this beautiful scene as Chuck is a kid in his classroom, and his teacher, who's played by Kate Siegel, gives this great monologue to him, kind of holding his head, reminding him like, we're all multitudes. And oh, God, it's so good.
Wow.
Yes. I thought that's what you were quoting, to be quite honest.
No.
Cool. To be totally honest, I had low expectations with the trailer. I didn't think the trailer looked all that good, but on your recommendation, I will move it up the list now. Yeah.
It's just one of those, like, once you watch, you're like, I am so moved and inspired by this story. And maybe it's because I'm a King fan, maybe it's because I'm a Mike Flanagan fan, and all of that together, and different type of storytelling for both of them, different type of story for both of them. And it all is beautiful.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll move it up the list. Can I mention one more thing about Lon Chaney real quick, just to back on topic or whatever? Well, I was reading, trying to do a little research before tonight. I read that he worked pretty closely with Mary Philbin too, and like tried to coach her a little bit since this was kind of an early role for her. And like one of the things he told her, from what I read, was that like, in performing on screen for the camera as opposed to performing on stage, like, you just want to make sure that like the audience feels your emotions. Like you don't want to necessarily like emote to the rafters and like display every single like movement and every tear and every sort of like, every single gesture. Like he was kind of trying to teach Mary Philbin a little bit, like, subtlety goes a long way, and like it might help the audience in a movie theater like really feel what you're going through instead of over emoting. And I just thought that was kind of interesting that he tried to work with her closely on this production.
Bring it back to the Dracula connection. This is kind of in the release and legacy. So right before Chaney died, this was in 1931, Universal was already talking about doing Bram Stoker's Dracula with Todd Browning, who did direct it. And Browning and Chaney had worked together on like 10 previous movies. They were pitch perfect for each other. But then Chaney died. And then Universal literally offered the role to everybody on the roster, including our actor Carew, who plays Inspector Ledoux. Nobody wanted to do it. Bela Lugosi offered to do it. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like $500 a week, which was such a drastic pay cut, even at the time. Like that was nothing. But Lugosi was a Hungarian immigrant, new to Hollywood. He said, I'll do it. And Carl Laemmle finally said, fine. Lugosi, you can have it. And it turned him into a star.
Wow.
So Chaney's death like kind of opened. I hate those stories. Like someone has to die to open, the path for the up and comer, but it's a classic story nonetheless. And it's kind of true in this case.
Yeah. In retrospect, why would you not want to play Dracula? It's such a star turn, It's surprising. But different time. Getting back to Phantom of the Opera. So the novel by Gaston Leroux was published in 1910. Lon Chaney optioned the film rights in November of 1923. Universal wanted him to make the film for $100,000. He consulted with his business manager, who said it could not be done for less than $200,000. In modern terms, or modern money amounts, that amounts to $200,000 would be about $3.65 million. Phantom of the Opera is well known for having no trick or matte shots. There were 5 tiers of theater boxes that were built to replicate the real Paris Opera House. The entirety of Stage 28 on the Universal backlot was dedicated to the set. It was not torn down until 2021 and was featured in many other movies. It's a fantastic set. In my opinion, one of the best things about this movie, you can tell just how enormous and grandiose these sets are. And when I watched this movie a couple days ago, I thought that they like tinted the film, which was done with a lot of silent movies at the time, but it turns out I was wrong. It was actually done with an early process of Technicolor for some scenes, including the film's masquerade ball scene. I think it was like a 2-strip Technicolor as opposed to like 3-strip Technicolor, which would become a lot more famous later with The Wizard of Oz and other movies. So it has a really kind of fantastic, bizarre, bold reds and blues kind of color scheme for certain scenes, which looks really amazing.
I love that. I just love real sets. Like, screw CGI. Build a real set and have actors walking around your set. Like it makes a world of difference. It's like in Rear Window, the whole apartment is real and is not like built on a soundstage and that high up that Hitchcock is filming at. I think that's a crazy story too. The chandelier scene in Phantom that's so infamous is actually a camera trick where they, not even a trick per se, but like they filmed it rising and then reversed it so it looks like it's falling down on the set. And of course, in the musical, it's a big moment in the musical. We talked about Lon Chaney's makeup. He did all of his own makeup prosthetics for the movie. You know, you've got a bald cap, you've got like gross hair. He glued his ears back to his head. He like put wires in his nose to make it look like his face was more skeleton looking. I mean, his teeth are all gross. Like it's really cool effects for the era, but you would never do that nowadays. You would never have an actor doing his own makeup like that. You would have a makeup department, a hair department. And unless it is some really scrappy independent movie where the actors are all doing multiple jobs in a big studio picture like this, you would never have that. So I think it's really cool that he did it all and it's effective. I mean, when you have the unmasking, it's a really great shot and really cool effect that they did. The Universal's marketing department did not want any photos of him maskless, so like they didn't want to spoil the effect of it, and it's well done. I mean, it's a good effect, good makeup.
I think it speaks to the early days of Hollywood where it was more, I don't know, vaudevillian and just more scrappy. Like, we don't have a makeup department. That's you. You got to bring your toolbox, your tackle box.
Yeah, your Ben 9 number 5. Yeah. Yes. Mine's in my daughter's room right now.
Theater school.
Yes.
So the production of this movie, began in November of 1924. Lon Chaney had his He Who Gets Slapped at MGM had just been released, and he starts production on Phantom. The movie as a whole goes through several different iterations. Lots of test screenings are involved, but the original ending had Eric, the Phantom of the Opera, dying in his lair of a broken heart. This very first iteration screened in January of 1925. Preview audiences hated it. They were confused by this ending. So now Universal brings in Sedgwick to direct whole new scenes, leveraging his background on comedy and action. So this new version is more light in tone, and it ran in 1925, and preview audiences also hated it. So now Universal's like, okay, what do we got to do? They cut most of the Sedgwick footage, actually, except the ending, that climactic chase through the streets of Paris. They add back in most of the Rupert Julian footage, the initial footage, to bring back in that sense of mystery and, I'd say mystery to the movie. Now, this was a 2-hour version that full entirety of that print no longer exists. But there's a shorter version. I don't even know where that footage went, but that 1925 print is available today. And this is the one that stuck. So in September 1925, Universal had a smash on their hands with the Phantom of the Opera. Now, 4 years go by, and we have the use and innovation of talking movies with the synchronization of sound. So Universal, to capitalize on this, and a lot of studios, well, like all the studios did, while they were making new talkies, they went back into their catalog for their hits to add synchronized sound. A lot of these were just adding sound effects or music, nothing too difficult for them to do. But Universal did that and added some voices like Mary Philbin's and Norman Carey's. So they came back into the studio to dub some lines. Lon Chaney, however, at this time was on contract with MGM. So it's really unfortunate that he does not lend his voice to this new 1929 talkie version. It kind of is a moot point anyways, because again, like a lot of silent films, much of this talkie version is lost to history. There are, again, snippets that do exist. For example, like I have the Kino Lorber Blu-ray edition, and on the bonus features, you can watch the 1929 version with whatever sound is still left. So it's kind of a really interesting watch, but nothing like truly fundamentally different. So yeah, just a cool, complicated, historically interesting production history there and release.
Yeah. And reason number like 4,000 why studios should not listen to audience previews or like audience preview cards. It's never a good idea. That has mangled so many movies throughout the history of cinema. It makes no sense.
They went back to Julian's more or less original version.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Just closing out the production and release backstory here a little bit. Universal remade the film in 1943 with Claude Rains as the Phantom. I have not seen that. Have either of you guys seen that 1943 version?
No, but it's in the Universal box set that I have. And I was surprised that they didn't go with the Lon Chaney one. Like I pulled that, I was like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That is surprising.
That is surprising. It's something I've always noticed as a Universal horror fan. Like the Chaney version's never included in these box sets. I've seen the Claude Rains version. Watch it for yourselves, but that's
a ringing endorsement right there. Watch it for yourself. Ringing endorsement.
Yeah,
I'm speaking to critics here. You know the language of the trade. It's much heavier on the romance and the melodrama and the music than the horror. So as a horror movie, it's not very effective.
Well, maybe one reason it's not in that Universal box set is because Universal did not renew the copyright in 1953. The film has been popular and acclaimed ever since its release. The face of the Phantom is ubiquitous in pop culture, tons of tributes and parodies over the years. Obviously, we've talked about some of them already on the podcast. And it features in a main attraction at Universal's Epic Universe theme park, which, Vincent, I'm sure you know well since you grew up in Orlando.
I don't know this park, actually. It's just opened up in the past couple of years. Well, their new park called Epic Universe, there's a section that's devoted entirely to the Universal monsters. So I am literally dying to get there. And their main ride is like a roller coaster through all the monsters. And the Phantom is there. So
I want to go. That sounds great.
Yeah. So just being in touch with the merch and everything, Chaney's Phantom is kind of all over the place.
Yeah. And just when you think about like Phantom in the zeitgeist, I think you either think of the musical and that mask and that legacy, or Lon Chaney's depiction and those images that are so ubiquitous to Phantom. I don't think about the Claude Rains one. Maybe it's because I haven't seen it. Maybe when I would see it, I'd be like, oh, I know that scene, but I doubt it. You know, just rewatching that when I was watching this one, I was like, oh yeah, I've seen, like, these are the clips that I know of Phantom.
Yeah. Just last week in Target, you know, they have a section of collectors' toys and things, and it's like in the back by the books. And in a little, like, there's a little action figure of the Phantom in his Red Death costume, which I love, with the skull and the red robe and the feathered hat. And it's like an action figure in Target in 2025. I was like, this is so awesome.
That's great.
He lives.
I listened to some of the sound snippets that you talked about, Vincent, on the Kino Lorber Blu-ray, because I borrowed that from you. And this, you know, it just kind of proves the point a little bit. Like, this feels like it should be a silent movie. Like, to, you know, hear even like certain scenes with sound to it just doesn't feel right. You know, I just feel like in our collective unconscious, for people that care about movies or know this movie, like, it's a foundational silent movie. You know what I mean? So that's just to prove the point that, like, it's really entrenched in our, like, national unconscious, I think.
Yeah. Well, Matt, shall we get to our sponsor break?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services. Follow the Zach Pack on social media and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Link in the show notes. Matt, what do we have in old Mina's mailbox?
Yeah, what do we have in Mina's mailbox? Mina's mailbox, as always, is brought to you by Patreon. If you become a patron, then your comments are tops. It looks like we have something about Space Amoeba in Mina's mailbox today.
Yeah, a couple of things from about Space Amoeba, actually. Would you do the honors?
Oh, sure. I didn't know that this was the entire thing, but UV Rodriguez says, I love Saturn Video and Cafe. And that's a shout out. We had Saturn Video and Cafe on our recent episode. So, yes, we love Saturn Video as well.
Yeah.
And then Mark on Instagram left us a comment about Space Amoeba as well. He said, just finished this one. Really liked this title. My favorite episodes are the ones which cover these more obscure titles. Great episode, guys. Thank you, Mark. We really appreciate it. I also love the title Space Amoeba and that movie. Glad you liked that episode.
Yes. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, UV Rodriguez, and everyone else listening. And we actually have quite a few Space Amoeba comments that I'll just pepper throughout the upcoming episodes here. But this is a good opportunity to remind our listeners that coming up next on Camp Kaiju, we have 20 Million Miles to Earth, the Ray Harryhausen effects-driven sci-fi movie from the 50s. It's about an alien that crash lands on Earth and grows to gigantic proportions, of course. And we're hoping Naomi Osborne, friend of the pod, joins us for that one. But another friend of the pod is Mr. Peter Lorre, and he's going to cover a 1946 Poverty Row film called The Brute Man. And as Letterboxd says, it is about a facially disfigured and mentally unhinged man who wreaks his revenge on those he blames for his condition. That actually kind of sounds like the Phantom of the Opera. But
Yeah.
I guess nothing is new in horror films. But I'll let Mr. Lorre take that one away.
Welcome to the Poverty Row Studios on the other side of Hollywood, where the stars were dimmer and the red carpets dripped with blood. Together we will watch the best of the worst. Oh, movies known for their limited budgets, their outlandish concepts, and questionable performances, but with enough haunted houses, zombies, ape men, and devil bats to keep you up at night. This is the Poverty Row Picture Show, and I dare you to sleep through these nightmares. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped the stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Oh, you startled me, listeners. Oh, well, will you excuse me while I close my Edgar Allan Poe's copy of The Raven? Yes, it is not so bizarre a thing for a man to do alone in the basement of his home. Sorry, Vincent's home. No, dear listeners. I swear this is just a book. A little velvet cover with a little bookmark but I digress. I would like to tell you that I was in the movie called The Raven for Roger Corman. Yes, dear listeners, so it all makes sense now. Well, okay, here we go. Tonight on the Poverty Row Picture Show, we will discuss the 1944 movie The Brute Man, starring Rondo Hatton as the Creeper. Yes, the Creeper is a back-breaking psychomaniac from a series of Universal horror chillers in the 40s. Now, the actor Rondo Hatton was a man who suffered from acromegaly in real life. This is the glandular disorder that enlarges the face and the limbs. And for better or worse, Hatton puts his mean mug to work for Hollywood. At the Universal, his creeper character was featured in The Pearl of Death, House of Horrors, and The Brute Man. This latter picture would prove Hatton's swan song. Sadly, the actor died from his acromegaly 6 months before the release of the film itself. Fittingly, the movie, The Brute Man, treats the creeper with a newfound sense of sympathy. I mean, his crimes, as heinous as they are, you can't help but feel for the guy. He's just a serial murderer who's just misunderstood. Lastly, it should be noted that the film was produced by Universal Studios and sold to the Poverty Roll Company, PRC, for distribution. At this time in 1944, Universal was on the verge of a merge with International Pictures, so they were kind of dumping all their B movies off on the smaller studios in favor of more, quote, prestige productions. Yes, well, be that as it may, next time we will get back to scraping the bottom of the B barrel with Return of the Ape Man, starring Bela Lugosi and John Carradine. Oh my goodness, listeners, what is this outside my window? It is a winged creature of the night. Oh my goodness, it is a raven tapping at my window.
20th Century Fox presents Phantom of the Paradise, a gothic horror story.
What was that?
Our love.
A beautiful love story.
Hold my baby.
Like the circus.
A cinematic odyssey through the rock universe. From Greece to glitter.
Wow!
And beyond. The story of a sound, the man who created it, the girl who sang it, the monster who stole it, and the phantom who haunts the paradise, the ultimate rock palace. Phantom of the Paradise.
My music is for Phoenix. Only she can sing it. Anyone else that tries, dies.
Phoenix.
Well, you told me one time that you'd be somebody, that you weren't working just to survive.
B.
Snow! Whoa! Man, you better get yourself a castrato for this.
Paul Williams as Swan.
And the angels that defeated them.
I want you to stop terrorizing the paradise and rewrite your cantata.
And the Phantom.
Well, stop and try me up. Only you might satisfy me
Phantom of the Paradise.
There really is the Phantom.
All right, back to Phantom. Back to Eric doing diabolical things in his lair.
I mean, one of the things I actually love about the movie is I feel like it embraces the camp. It embraces how over the top and ridiculous it all is. I mean, and maybe that wasn't the intent at the time, but I feel like it is that way, unlike the musical, which takes itself so seriously, that there was something I enjoyed about the movie, and in that kind of vein of things, I thought was great. You know, it's heightened stakes from the very beginning. I mean, the notes that the Phantom leaves regarding Carlotta and Christine, and how he's going to make sure that Carlotta doesn't sing and it's going to be Christine doing the role. Like, it's all just so much from the very beginning. I loved it.
I think Lon Chaney definitely like understands the role, understands the assignment. Like he's like heartbreakingly poignant in so much of it, but also when the moment comes for him to be a little dastardly, he knows how to do that. He knows how to like put his hand through the door And like he does a lot of great hand acting in this movie too. And he like flicks the letter on the desk, and like he knows when to dial up the physicality and the hamminess. And it's pretty good.
During the unmasking, if you will, I couldn't help but think about Norma Desmond's classic line in Sunset Boulevard where she said, "We didn't need dialogue, we had faces." And it's just like it's so perfect for the silent era, and especially this movie. Like, you don't need any dialogue in this. You don't need music in it. Like, you get everything that Lon Chaney is doing and what he's doing with his face, and it's perfect.
Another Sunset Boulevard. Sorry, Matt. I just want to drop in the Sunset Boulevard connection to this movie. So in The Phantom's lair, he lays Christine on this bed that's shaped like a boat. That exact bed set dressing is used in Sunset Boulevard.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. And Andrew Lloyd Webber also did the musical Sunset Boulevard.
And Buster Keaton's in Sunset Boulevard, the movie.
Yes, as
so
himself,
bringing it all around.
It's so good. Sunset Boulevard. God, we could do a whole episode on that too. Anyway.
Love that movie. There's also the line in Sunset Boulevard where Norma Desmond said it was the pictures that got small, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that also relates to Phantom of the Opera. Like, this is a huge movie. And like, I just feel like, you know, then talkies came about, and, you know, of course there were epic movies made after that. But like, I think just like the stature of Phantom of the Opera and some of these silent epics, maybe Hollywood never got back to that point, you know?
Mm-hmm. I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
Yeah, exactly. Spoiler alert, I really love this movie. It's really, like, I was blown away watching it this time because, like I said before, it had been like more than 20 years since I had seen it. And it definitely does have that camp element. I think Chaney, you know, he does bring the camp, but he also brings the pathos. To me, like, this is kind of like a foundational horror movie for American cinema, in my opinion. Like, there were American horror movies before this, but I feel like in some ways it all goes back to this. Like, the success of this movie led to all those Universal monster movies like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, so on and so forth. Like, there's a direct lineage from this movie to those movies. And I, you know, even watching this time, I was like, you know, The Phantom kind of seems like this could be like Saw, you know? And I hate the Saw movies. I'm not saying that's like a great comparison or like a great compliment to Phantom of the Opera, but like, you know, the torture chambers that the Phantom has like underneath the Paris Opera House, and like death, or at least like attempted murder by like drowning and hanging and like dropping chandeliers. Like, this is a slasher movie, you know, like 60 years or whatever before slasher movies really became a popular genre. So as a horror lover, I have to give this movie so many props. Like, I feel like it is a prototypical text for that genre. I think it looks amazing. Again, the sets and like that 2-strip Technicolor process just looks amazing. And like, you can tell from the very first shot of the movie, which is like bright red and like seems to be in like a subterranean layer of some kind. And all you see is like shadows and silhouettes at first. It just feels different. Like, and I can imagine being an audience member in 1925. I understand why this was so successful. Like, you know, it must have been scary and like over the top, of course, and like really huge, really entertaining. And I still feel that way about this movie. So you know, it has its flaws, which we'll get to in a minute, but like, I really love it. I can't say enough good things about this movie.
I'm glad you brought up the element of how psycho the Phantom is with his torture chamber, and that's why that's so campy to me too. It's like, is this a Bond villain in a 1920s horror movie? But the Phantom's mask in this one, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, but the mask is so creepy to me. It feels like a modern horror mask where they try to be all like baby-like or cute and animal-like. But his mask in this, it's got those round features. It's very baby-like, and it just has that vacant stare. That is just it's haunting.
I think sometimes the lack of personality in a mask gives the actor more to do with it, you know, then the rest of the face can show off, or the angle of the body can kind of hone in on how it looks at one angle versus another angle, where if you put too many features into a mask, that's all it is. It's just like one thing. Or if you make it a little bit more of a blank slate, then the actor can really play with that in multiple ways. You know, I was thinking about this when I was watching it. The Red Death costume during the masquerade is the exact same one in the musical. So I kind of love that the musical really took the look of this movie as kind of an homage to what they were going for in the musical. It was a great callback to the movie is what they did with that costume. Yeah.
I love that costume. It's just so epic. And he's the best dressed person in that building.
That whole scene looks incredible. I love that ball sequence. And with the mask, like, you know, it does look baby-like. I think, like, you can see, like, the eyes moving just, like, barely within, like, the eye holes or whatever. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I just feel like that, you know, there's the mask, you can read anything into it because it's so minimalistic. And I think you read, or at least I read, a lot of, like, pain into it, you know? And, like, the Phantom just wants to be loved. That's basically what the character is. And, like, he obviously expresses that in the most demented ways possible. But, like, you know, again, I think Chaney and that mask do a good job of conveying that pain and that loneliness, you know, in a very campy.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's very kind of baby-like and porcelain in a way.
Yeah. I'm just gonna dive in. I'm just gonna pull in a theme here too, because I think we can wrap that up into our good stuff too. If you have any themes you want to shout out with this movie, but this goes back to David J. Skal. He's a horror writer, author, movie reviewer, and in his text The Monster Show, he argues that the Phantom of the Opera is indicative of returning veterans from World War I in the 1920s, where you had so many survivors, and because of advancements in modern medicine, they were surviving despite facial disfigurements and limb disfigurements. So a lot of people in society were wearing masks of porcelain to hide their faces. So Skal ties the Phantom's appearance and the theme of painful loneliness and being the outcast to returning vets. I think there's something to that. And then just to tie this back into Freaks, Matt, we just watched, it's that same theme of the disfigured among us, for lack of a better term, the disabled among us, and how society pushes them to the margins. And that can cause a lot of pain in those communities.
I mean, one of the best lines in the movie I wrote down, if I am the Phantom, it is because man's hatred has made me so. You know, what are we doing to our marginalized communities if we continue to villainize them so much? You know, what does that do after a while? Yeah. There's a psychological element here that adds to the horror and adds to maybe the realness of where the character comes from.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think Chaney's performance brings that element out. You know, I think in lesser hands, it would just be a very one-note psychological killer down in the basement. But I think Chaney does a lot of heavy lifting to bring out that pathos.
Well, I would maybe bring up a theme that could also act as a segue to a criticism of the movie if we want to move into some of the bad stuff about the film. But, you know, I think it's kind of about the lengths that you'll go to achieve stardom, to like become a great artist. We definitely see that with Christine. I think, you know, and this is my criticism of the movie is that like that could be fleshed out a lot more. That definitely is fleshed out more in the novel, as well as in like some of the initial treatments of this film that were then like left on the cutting room floor. But Christine, you know, she has a backstory where like her dad was a musician who died at an early age, but like, you know, supposedly told her about like the angel of music who would like come to her and like teach her how to be this great singer. So like it makes a little bit more sense that she would believe that the Phantom is like this benevolent figure and she would kind of just eagerly go along with him, you know? That was cut from the film, and it's like kind of hard to buy that she would just like he kind of abducts her, but she like very willingly goes along with him, you know? And I think if some of that stuff was retained, then the character of Christine would be a lot more dynamic, a lot more relatable and empathetic. But I still do think that theme is there of like, she wants to be this great singer, and she will do anything it takes to achieve that. You know, if I can bring in Phantom of the Paradise again, that theme is conveyed a lot more in that movie, but it's here. And I think, you know, we see that a little bit with the Phantom too. Like we don't necessarily, he's not like an artist or anything, but he obviously goes to extreme lengths to like get the woman he loves to like very, you know, psychotic degree. So just that theme of like the extreme lengths that humans will go to achieve their dreams, and sort of like obviously negative, like very distorted and grotesque fashion is definitely in this movie.
For sure. And I think you watch it and you're like, oh God, the story is so dated. Oh, it's kind of like cringeworthy. But I mean, it's not like it's made in 2025, and we can look at it with a very different angle for the time and how think about maybe someone luring someone and, I don't know. I've not read the book, so I can't necessarily compare one to the other or like how it's fleshed out, but it's fascinating to kind of hear that angle of Christine and the backstory that is kind of needed.
Yeah, I wish it had been in the movie. That definitely would have added a much deeper element.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my main criticism of the film is, well, it's a criticism in just like it's a dated element. Can I critique society 100 years ago? Sure, but like that. Well, what weight does that hold? I guess my point is the relationship and how the men treat Christine is just very paternal and very like I'm the protector, and her and Raul's relationship, their characters are very one note. He's the man, the suave, swashbuckler, and she's the ingenue, and they're playing their archetypes. They are characterizations we see even today, but they're just so simple in this movie that, Matt, to your point, it's like, yeah, why does Christine go the lengths she goes to be abducted? But then Christine makes me laugh in this movie so much because she does these things and then regrets them, but then goes back and does it again, seemingly. It's like she's got a little bit of like the imp of the perverse when she wants to like pull the Phantom's mask. And you see that he's like, don't do anything you want, but do not touch my mask. And then she touches his mask.
It's like the first thing she does in his lair. It's like, yeah, probably not a good idea.
And it breaks his heart. And this isn't a criticism anymore. I'm just like going on about that scene and kind of how campy that is. And yeah, she has, maybe it's an ironically complicated relationship she has with the Phantom. Because it's like, will she, won't she? I don't know, Christine. What is going through your mind right now?
It's impossible to know in this movie. And I feel like that's also true of the Persian character, that's how he's referred in some of the intertitles. And like, again, like there was an earlier version of the film where like it goes more into the backstory where like Eric, the Phantom, was in, I think it just says Persia, which is, I guess would have been Iran at the time, but it doesn't really like go into too much detail about that.
Devil's Island?
In the actual film, I think it says Devil's Island, but like in an earlier treatment of the film, it goes into more of the backstory of like how Eric got, disfigured like in Persia, and that's how he knew the Persian character. But like then in the finished version of the film, that character is kind of just a member of the French secret police, but he's still referred to as the Persian, I'm fairly certain. So it's like, who is this character? Why is there this kind of weird cultural exoticism? That's another flaw of the movie for sure, where that character just kind of seems there to push the story along, to like awkwardly provide exposition,
He's a bit of a red herring at first. I think the movie wants us to think, oh, he's the Phantom, but he's just standing around like, I just happen to be darker skinned, and you're all looking at me like I did something wrong.
Right. And if that had been intentional, that might have been interesting. But in the finished version of the film, it's like what is going on here? Nothing seems intentional about this.
Right.
So yeah, story-wise, there are some flaws here. That would be the bulk of my bad category for this movie.
Yeah.
You wouldn't set a story like this in 2025. That would be my point. But when you kind of turn that off, it's and maybe focus on the psychological element that we had been talking about, I think it works. I mean, I've never been a fan of this story. I actually really like the movie. But the story itself is not one that I like clamor over, and maybe it's because I'm just so used to the musical that I don't necessarily care for. That it's like, oh, it's but I want to watch the movie again. I actually would love to buy the Kino Lorber version of this and see these different, cuts and hear some of the audio from it, just to hear what it'd be like. But I enjoyed the movie. Like I think I gave it 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd if I haven't written that already. But Lon Chaney's great. I think it's a great exercise in silent film acting. And I love looking at the silent era and what does that mean for film and thinking about archiving these types of movies and how do they stand the test of time. And I think they do. And especially this one, it's thinking about the Paris Opera House. Yeah, it's a great piece of its element in time. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The moment in this movie that made me fall in love with it years ago, I was watching it in bed on my phone. Again, I just found it on YouTube and I was like, it's about time I watched Phantom. But the moment I fell in love with it was on the scene on the top of the roof, on the top of the opera house. It's after the masquerade ball and Christine is with Raoul and she's saying, and she's going behind the Phantom's back. He said, I will release you as long as you never see Raoul again. Well, of course, Christine does exactly what she's told not to do. And she's talking to Raoul about getting me out of here. And unbeknownst to them, the Phantom is above them, eavesdropping. And he's in the thralls of pain and he's weeping and he's like crying out into the night, but silently because Christine's below. And I was just like, this is one of those heartbreaking things I've ever seen in film. I love that scene. And then I ended up loving the movie. So yeah, silent film acting. Lon Chaney really like, he just had this magic that he brings to the screen.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to add anything else, you guys, but I think we can move on to our ratings, our final ratings. Matt, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, for sure. So we have 4 ratings here on Camp Kaiju as always. Our highest rating is, it's a timeless classic. It definitely stands the test of time. Our second rating, there may be some antiquated moments, but overall it's great. It stands the test of time. Our third rating, it may be historically significant or just fun, but it does not stand the test of time. And our lowest rating, it is not worth revisiting. It definitely does not stand the test of time.
I'll go first. Just was like, I'll get me out of the way. I think going into this, I was thinking, look, there are antiquated moments. It can't be helped. The movie's a century old. However, I just think this is one of those moments where the legacy of this film is so overwhelmingly impactful. In addition to I think the moments with Lon Chaney, especially in The Phantom, I think are very well directed. Not just his acting, which stands the test of time, but I think the way he's shot and the way he's lit. I think the chase through Paris is still really riveting. And then the final moment before the Phantom dies, he gets thrown in the river by the mob. He like has something in his hand and he pretends like it's going to be something wicked again. And it turns out to be nothing. It's just all a big joke. So the Phantom has a sense of humor going out, which I just love this character who's diabolical, yet darkly humorous at the same time. So I think all of it still stands the test of time. I think it's a classic and for good reason.
I would agree. Like there's antiquated moments, sure, in its storytelling, but at the same time, like it's so well done and Lon's so great, as we've talked about. The production values are out of this world. And you see how it's kind of permeated pop culture for the last 100 years and how we still go back to it and how those images are kind of forever lasting. And to think about the film history behind it, the different cuts of it, if you go and study it all like we've been talking about, I think that's all fascinating. And you learn about who Lon Chaney was, coming from deaf parents. Like all these different layers add to why it's impactful and adds another layer to it. And yeah, it's kind of fun, like coming from the musical end that I've talked about, and to see the connections between the two, or how the musical takes from this, pays homage to this film, is rewarding. So yeah, timeless classic, stands test time. Sure, there's some storytelling elements. Of course, it's 100 years old. Times were different.
Yeah, totally agree with both of you. I'm happy to hear that we're all going to say it's a timeless classic and definitely stand the test of time, because I definitely feel that way. Yep, again, like certain things don't date very well, but like I think that's more than made up for by just like the spell that this movie casts, the spell that Lon Chaney casts. And I think even if like the silent style of movie performances can be a little bit over the top sometimes, there's also just like this sense of movement and expressiveness that like you don't really see in performances anymore. And like, you know, I would gladly give away some of that realism for like the dynamic sort of energy that the performances in this movie have. Certainly from Chaney, but I think we also see it in some of the other actors as well. Maybe not Raoul, but some of the other characters, for sure. So yeah, I mean, this again, this to me is kind of like a foundational text of American horror cinema and just a really magnificent movie in its own right.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Paul, for being here and joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Thank you, Paul.
We definitely want to give you some time here to plug anything that you want to share with our listeners.
Okay, you can find me on social media at Paul's Movie Trip. You can search Paul's Trip to the Movies on YouTube, on Patreon. You can go to my website, paulstriptothemovies.com. I have interviews right now with the cast of Kiss of the Spider Woman, the cast of Rough-Man with Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst, some Apple shows coming up that I've done interviews for that will be coming out soon. So good things coming ahead. Yeah.
Amazing. You're always welcome back.
I would love to be back.
We'd love to hear, I don't know, if you have any films you'd love to, you think would be good for this show. Maybe some Stephen King. Sure.
Absolutely. Sign me up. Love that. Love me some Halloween. Love me some Scream.
That's right. We've talked about John Carpenter.
I just watched Ghosts of Mars last week, which is amazing. God. Like, I kind of hate Vampires, the movie that he made right before that. But Ghosts of Mars is kind of stupid, but like, so stylish, so fun. The cast is amazing. And yeah, so love that movie. Love John Carpenter. Happy to hear that you like him as well.
Yeah, I actually have, that's a blind spot for me, and his work is that one. I have not seen it.
Highly recommended. Pam Grier, Ice Cube, Natasha Henstridge, Jason Statham. Amazing cast in that movie.
My brain just exploded.
Thanks for hanging out, friends. Please rate and review Camp Kaiju wherever you listen. You can also share this podcast with a friend. Subscribe to the website and send us listener comments at campkaiju@gmail.com or on Instagram, links in the show notes. Or if you'd like to be a featured voice on the show, leave us a voicemail at 612-470-2612, telling us about your favorite monster movies and memories. Please check out our website, campkaijupodcast.com, for more information. Camp Kaiju is recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul with me in his mailbox by Ben Cook Feltz. Thank you, friends, and until next time, stay campy. Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty, your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services. Follow the Zach Pack on social media and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Link in the show notes.
We should have lived happily ever after, like they do in the movies. But this was different, because this is a Hollywood story about the people who make the movies. The little ones that you never hear of, like Betty and me. The great ones, like Cecil B. DeMille. All those who knew Norma Desmond, a strange woman who left her mark on all of us who crossed her path. Has it ever occurred to you that I may have a life of my own, that there may be some girl that I'm crazy about?
Who? Some car hop or dress extra?
What I'm trying to say is that I'm all wrong for you. You want a Valentino, somebody with polo ponies, a big shot.
What you're trying to say is you don't want me to love you. Say it. Say it.
Gloria Swanson, one of the great personalities of this generation in a role that comes to an actress once in a lifetime. Rising to the heights, William Holden creates a startling portrayal. And a new star is born in Sunset Boulevard, Miss Nancy Olson.
Joe? Where are you?
What's this all about?
Why don't you come out and see for yourself? The address is 10,086 Sunset Boulevard.
Yes, Lon Chaney was all of these. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Miracle Man, the Phantom of the Opera. The world, fascinated and thrilled, called him the Man of 1,000 Faces. But what was the secret Lon Chaney hid behind his 1,000 faces? What was the mystery in his life? Now, for the first time, the true story, torn from his heart, comes to the screen. Starring James Cagney, magnificent as the fabulous Lon Chaney, master of the grotesque, the weird, the strange. And Academy Award-winning Dorothy Malone and lovely Jane Greer as the two women who made his life more astounding, more touching than any of his unforgettable roles.
I'll come to see you every week. Every week. I promise you.
You had me fired. Damn you! Damn you! Damn you!
Who are you?
I'm from the collection agency. I've come to collect my wife.
There's some kind of cool stuff that I thought was interesting about the making of the movie, like how Lon Chaney, created his own makeup, and then he had one of the cameramen like come into his, what's the word, dressing room or whatever, trailer, whatever it would be, and like surprised the cameraman. Like it was the first time anybody saw it, and the cameraman like screamed and like tumbled backwards over a piece of furniture or something, and was like, "Lon, what are you doing? What the hell?" I love that story. That's great. But yeah, I mean, like just little stories like that. That's all I would add to it.
Yeah, and Mary Philbin, when she pulled the mask off, that was the first time she had seen his face, which is just like you hear stories about that today, and it's just fun to know that no, even back then, to get the true raw reaction, they saved it for in camera.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love the way that scene is shot. After she pulls off the mask, the camera is looking at Lon Chaney from up, or it's like angled up, and it just like really accentuates his height. And then there's a shot of him from behind, and it's all done so dynamically to make him look even more monstrous. And she's cowering on the floor, so there's like a great blocking of height and power, and then he's like floating down. Like the way the camera like pulls back as he's coming down the stairs, I just got a sense of like floating skull, just like a floating image of death, which I think the Phantom is in this movie. He is death embodied, and it's just so freaking cool.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. It's visually like a really maybe not experimental, but like I think at this time in the mid-20s, they were like starting to play around a little bit more with like strange compositions and camera movements and camera effects. Like probably in like the late teens, they really started to do that a little bit more. But it's really impressive in this movie. I think there's another shot where like the Phantom is like intentionally out of focus at first and then like gradually becomes clearer, And that's a really cool like experiment with like first person perspective. There's another shot where like two characters are like waiting, they're like hiding around a corner, and like all we can see is like a face in the distance coming at the camera. And I think in that case it's actually the Persian character, like it's not the Phantom in that instance, but it is like a really amazing shot where like all we see is like a face in the darkness, and the lighting is immaculate, the camera work is great, like you said. It's like visually a really spectacular movie.
Yeah, and then all the extras that Carl Laemmle stuffed into this film, not just the audience goers, but like there's a full opera happening with 100 ballerinas on stage.
Yeah.
It's I mean, the movie, even when you adjust it for inflation, like by today's standards, it's nothing. But it was close to $1 million in 1925 money, and it paid off. But like that's a huge amount of money for a movie at that time.
Yeah, for sure. And I know like with the success of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, like I think Universal was like pretty confident they would have a hit on their hands with Lon Chaney appearing in it again, but like, there's no guarantee of that, of course. So like, I don't know. It was risky, and I think it paid off. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah, I was so excited to talk about it. I'm glad you feel the same way.
Love it. Yeah. I'm glad Paul liked it too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad he could talk about the musical influence as well. Because like in pop culture, that is also a juggernaut of a piece.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately it's a blind spot for me. I don't really like musicals all that much. I like, some of the older ones with like Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and stuff, but like, yeah, I don't know that one, so I'm glad that he was here to provide some insight onto that.
I just also wanted to say I did enjoy as Inspector Ledoux, the Persian. I do enjoy the performance of Arthur Edmund Carew.
Yeah.
I could see why he was well liked and respected, because his presence on screen seems very likable to me. He seems like a hero. Like I want him to figure out this case.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a lot of like magnetism, a lot of like gravity and like screen presence, It's unfortunate his character didn't really do a lot in this movie, but yeah, I like him a lot as an actor.
What did you think about the comedy in this film? And I'm thinking specifically about that stagehand who's clearly a comedic relief character.
Yeah. I think it works okay. It's seemingly a product of all the different versions of the film that they shot and like all the reshoots and the audience like suggestions, which again, if you're going to see the Phantom of the Opera and you're like, oh, there's too much like mystery and gloom, it's like, what are you doing, audience? What do you think you're getting into? What a stupid comment. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I think the comedy is like out of place, but it's kind of fun. Like there's the bit where like there's a trap door in the stage and like the stagehand like pops up out of it, and then like the other stagehand like roughs him up, and then he like goes through the trap door. That stuff's kind of fun.
Right. It does seem like it's from a different movie, but you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah. Makes it more entertaining and kind of unpredictable,
Yeah. Because I was going to say nothing about the Phantom's funny, but that's not true. I think the Phantom does have a pretty dark sense of humor. I mean, even just like he revels in the chaos he's causing. He's pure chaos.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the bit at the end where like he's pretending that he has something in his hand and he doesn't. That's pretty funny. I like that. And like like all the elaborate traps and the fact that like the pool that the two guys almost drown in is like right underneath the Phantom's like bed chamber or whatever, There's like a hidden panel that opens and then the guys come up. I thought that was really funny.
I also think it's funny why does it take the mob so long to go down into the sewers to find the Phantom? I feel like all those secret passageways shouldn't have been so secret. You know what I mean? Like, who's the sewer worker who like knew about this for 12 years, but like has been sitting on that information?
Right.
Why did it take so long to figure that out?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it kind of makes sense that the Phantom would know all the hidden like tunnels and like secret entrances so well, because he's like lived under there for so long apparently. But yeah, like the climax doesn't really make a lot of sense.
He has a fully furnished apartment suite down in that sewer.
I want to live there. It looks amazing, It probably would be a little bit dank and like humid at times, but it's like well furnished, That'd be nice. Love that bed.
How do you get it in there? He's got a boat, and I think it's cool that he uses the reed to breathe underwater.
Yeah, I love that.
As he stalks the people on the boat.
Yeah, that's a really great scene. And I like early on, I think actually the opening is kind of funny because like the two owners of the opera house sell it to like two other guys. And then they're like, oh, by the way, there might be like a dead Phantom who haunts the opera house. We forgot to tell you that. And then like the two new guys who own the opera house like go into like the loge, the box or whatever, where like the Phantom hides out, and they see him. And then they leave and come back, and suddenly he's gone. That's such a campy moment. And like, is the Phantom just trying to like fuck with people? What is he doing? He's just like, did he like jump over the balcony all of a sudden? I love that. It's funny.
Because he's not a ghost, turns out. He's a real person. So
right.
He can't defy physics.
He's just trying to mess with people, yeah. He's a chaos agent, like you said.
I know. He's so funny. There were a couple of title cards that made me laugh, and I had to write them down. In lieu of lines, like these are campy lines. Feast your eyes, glut your soul on my accursed ugliness.
I remember that one.
Legendary line. Just
Yeah.
so imaginative. Loved it.
Yeah, I knew that some of those notes were really funny. I should have taken a picture or written them down. Do you have any other ones that you took a picture of or wrote down?
Phantom says to Christine, "At last you have realized your ambitions, and now we shall be married." No, sorry, that's not the Phantom. That's Raoul who says that to Christine. Because she has the lead in the song, and then she goes back to her dressing room, and Raoul is there, and he says, "At last you've realized your ambitions. Now we shall be married." And I was like, oh, gender dynamics 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean that stuff dates pretty poorly for sure. Yeah, I mean if you can understand it as a product of like the time and place, then it's like I'm not saying it's funny to like make light of it, but it's funny just like how obvious it is, and like what a different time it was, like over the top, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some other quotes now, or like intertitles from the movie, because I know there were some other ones that I loved.
One that made me laugh as you're looking is Christine said when she first sees the Phantom, she says, you are the Phantom. And I went to myself on the couch, no duh, Christine. Who did you think was just kidnapped you behind a mirror door and took you down into the halls of the backstage? Like,
Right.
Christine just had me pulling my hair out sometimes.
Yeah. Apparently she thinks there's like an actual Phantom of the Opera and then this like unseen benevolent figure who's like trying to like lift her up, It's a little naive on her part, but
a little naive.
Oh, this is sorry, I finally found it. This is I can't remember if it's like an intertitle or a note that he gives, but the Phantom says, "No longer like a toad in these foul cellars will I secrete the venom of hatred, for you shall bring me love."
Oh my God.
Love that line. I should have written it down when I saw it. I'm glad I finally found it here. Secrete the venom of hatred. Amazing.
Like, maybe it gets away with it because you're reading the titles. But if any actor said those lines on screen, even at the time, I think you would laugh at that.
Yeah. Yeah. How could you not?
That makes me think of Singing in the Rain. Remember when they're trying to record the lines and the voices?
Yeah.
And Gene Kelly, he can't get away with "I love you, I love you, I love you," like he could in the silent movie.
Right. There's so much that I love about Singing in the Rain, and just like the, Jean Hagen, I think is the actress's name, like her extremely shrill voice and like the technology of it, like all that stuff I love in that movie.
Yeah, it captures the spirit of this truly bygone age at this point. Like, Carla Lemley is gone, and she was one of the last surviving stars of the era. She died 11 years ago now, but I don't think anyone's left. And it's just in history books now, and movies like this where it's a time capsule as much as art or a narrative art piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And like, that's why just like the way it looks, Lon Chaney's performance, it's, there will never be another movie like this,
Yeah. They've tried many remakes, which I haven't seen. Apparently Robert Englund was in a version in the 80s. There was a Universal version in the 60s. Phantom of the Paradise, of course. The musical, of course. But, I want to watch them all, but I just don't think they can truly match that je ne sais quoi of this first one.
Totally, yeah. I'm intrigued by the Robert Englund one, though. I was not aware of that.
It seems like a product of a Robert Englund 80s horror movie. Dirty, violent, rough around the edges.
I sometimes love that kind of thing. Usually I love it. It can go too far sometimes, but yeah, I'm intrigued.
Did Hammer make a Phantom?
Yeah, the Phantom of the Opera in 1962.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah. Terrence Fisher. Okay. I'd watch that one. I'd be into that one. We got to get some Hammer films on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. They're kind of hit or miss, I think, but there's some fantastic ones.
Agreed.